Hey, what is up guys? Merganman4 here, and it's a brand new year. And as is tradition, the last few years, that means we've also got a brand new episode of Doctor Who to talk about. It's been a long 10-month wait since the end of Series 12, but Revolution of the Daleks has finally arrived, and there's a ton to talk about it. So, why don't we get right into it? So, Revolution of the Daleks. As I said, there's a lot going on here, and it's a good thing that this episode is an extended one, even more than the usual specials. It's 71 minutes long, which I believe puts it into the top 5 longest episodes of the new series. And honestly, even then, even with that extended runtime, I do wish it was a little bit longer, because at least on the first watch, I did feel like some things felt a little bit too rushed. I do think it got better when I rewatched it. It flowed a lot smoother, but I feel like this definitely could have still benefited from being longer, because there is a lot of stuff here. And actually, one of the things that I love about it that contributes to this is the fact that it's following on from quite a few episodes from the Chibnall era. In the new series, we usually, especially in the classic series, but even in the new series, we usually only have episodes that might follow off on one, maybe two prior stories, but this one is pulling threads together from a bunch of different ones. We've got one from as far back as Arachnids in the UK, because we have Jack Robertson returning from that episode. This story also acts as a direct sequel to the previous New Year's special, Resolution. Of course, we have Captain Jack coming back after Fugitive of the Jadoon, but we finally actually get a full, proper appearance here rather than just an extended cameo. And finally, of course, the episode follows on directly from the ending of Series 12 with the Timeless Children. So there's a lot going on here, and I've talked before about how I think Chibnall really grasps the returning villains. I loved his take on the Dalek in Resolution. Sacha Dhawan's Master is actually my favorite incarnation of the character, and I think the recent trilogy in Series 12 is one of the best outings for the Cybermen in the whole new series. So I think he's done a fantastic job with all three of those. And we have another Dalek story here. And unlike with Resolution, which just featured a single Dalek, and not only that, it was kind of rebuilding itself using just spare supplies, here we have a full-on proper Dalek story, Daleks everywhere, and yeah, he does a superb job with them. The Daleks are great. Honestly, some of the most threatening they've probably ever been. And it's also really awesome that we kind of have a Dalek civil war in a way, because we've got these two different factions of Daleks and fighting against each other, something we haven't seen since the classic era. And yeah, it all works really, really well. And as a sequel to Resolution, I also think it does a great job building off of that and where that story left off, because we have Jack Robertson using the burnt-out casing of the Dalek in Resolution to build these new security defense drones. And speaking of Jack Robertson, I was one of the people who actually really enjoyed him in Arachnids in the UK. Yes, he's obvious and blatant and over the top, but he was just so much fun, and Christoph's performance was just fantastic, and I just really enjoyed watching that character. So I was very excited to see him come back here, and I think Chibnall did some really great work with him. I loved it building off of that, and I love the idea of connecting these seemingly separate episodes together, because obviously Arachnids in the UK and Resolution don't really have anything in common. So I love that these different story threads are coalescing together. And yeah, Jack Robertson was great here, and I love how obviously he has no clue of the danger of what he's been doing with these defense drones, and eventually he meets up with the Doctor and co, and he decides to betray them and side with the Daleks and try and sell out humanity to them, just to kind of save his own skin. And just like in Arachnids in the UK, I thought Chris Noth's performance was excellent. He was really funny to watch, and he has some great lines too.
You're feeding clone Dalek creatures liquidized humans?
Correct. This is a PR disaster.
Because obviously, being the Trump parody that he is, his concern isn't really with human life or anything. He's just greedy businessman, and he's got a couple of really great lines in there, I thought, that made me laugh out loud. But Robertson is not the only Jack returning in this episode. We also have the return of Captain Jack Harkness, who we did see return in a surprise appearance in Fugitive of the Judoon, but that was a very, very minor role, and here he actually gets a proper appearance. He finally meets the 13th Doctor, and it's fantastic. It is so good to have Jack back. It's like he never left, and my only real issue is, well, I guess there's two things, but they're relatively minor. I do wish he had a little bit more to do in the story outside of breaking the Doctor out of prison. He didn't really do anything else that the other companions weren't already fulfilling with him. But also, he didn't really even get a proper goodbye scene. It was just this weird kind of ADR thing.
Sorry, lost track of time. Gwen Cooper sends her love, by the way. Says she took out a Dalek with a moped and her son's boxing gloves. Woo-hoo!
And it wasn't terrible, but it really would have been nice to have a proper farewell scene between them. I don't know what happened there, but the ADR kind of seems like it wasn't what the original plan was. So that's a shame, but it's not terrible. But other than that, I think Jack was great to have back again. John Barrowman was excellent in the episode. It was such a joy to watch. He and Jodie Whittaker have this fantastic chemistry, and you fully 100% believe that they have the history together that they do. Like they don't miss a beat. They're excellent together, and Jack's interactions with the different companions was a lot of fun as well. Obviously, they already met briefly in Fugitive of the Judoon, and in particular, he gets some great stuff with Yaz. He talks about his experience with the Doctor, about how they kind of separated, and he was unsure if he was ever going to see him again, because Yaz is going through something similar. She's been left on Earth for 10 months with Graham and Ryan, while the Doctor has been trapped in prison, but they didn't know that. They don't know where she is. They don't know if she's even ever going to return for them, and so she was really struggling, and it was great. That's one big advantage of having Jack back here, is that he acts as someone who's had this sort of experience before that the different companions can bounce off of. He's the more experienced one, and I think that worked really well. And so speaking of the companions, both Yaz and Ryan have some really good stuff here. Unfortunately, Graham draws a bit of a short straw, pretty much like he did almost all through Series 12. He doesn't have a lot to do here, but which is a real shame, because this is his last appearance, at least last regular appearance. It's open-ended whether he might return in the future, but he doesn't get a whole lot, which is a real shame, especially because he's my favorite of the three companions. But it was great to see both Yaz and Ryan get some really meaty stuff in this episode. Yaz, as mentioned, had that talk with Jack. Ryan has a talk with the Doctor, and he kind of reveals how he started to adjust back to life back home, and kind of following off of Can You Hear Me, where he was worried about being away from his friends and not being there when they need him. He's kind of just feeling he's found his place back on Earth, and he's just kind of uncertain about where that leaves his future with the Doctor. Meanwhile, the Doctor is, of course, still struggling with the reveals from the Series 12 finale, and I really like their heart-to-heart together. I think that it was such a great scene. Tossin Cole and Jodie Whittaker were just fantastic, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. So I've talked about all the other main characters by now, but I really, really want to talk about the 13th Doctor here, because I think this episode is definitely one of Jodie Whittaker's best performances for sure, and probably one of the best outings for the 13th Doctor as a character. She starts out the episode obviously trapped in prison, like she was at the end of The Timeless Children, and one thing I do wish is I was kind of hoping and expecting that she would be in prison for the majority of the episode, And I think that would have been a really neat thing to have the Doctor out of the main action for the most part, and then have her come in near the end, heroically saving the day. But she gets out pretty quickly. I mean, the character is trapped there for a few decades, but from the perspective of the episode, she's out within the first 15 minutes, I want to say, which is a little bit underwhelming. So she's saved by Captain Jack, which I did think was a great rescue and a great way to introduce the character into the episode. But yeah, I was a little bit underwhelmed that we didn't get a bit more in there and a little bit more personal introspection from the Doctor while she's trapped there. I think that would have been really neat to explore, and it would have been great to see the companions and Jack coping with this Dalek invasion without the Doctor, because we only very briefly see the fam doing that. And that was how the episode was advertised. It was advertised as the Doctor is separated from them and they have to solve the problem without her. And that wasn't actually the case at all. So I was a little bit underwhelmed by that, but I think it's still good the way it played out. It still worked, and ultimately I think it was for the benefit of the episode, because Jodie Whittaker and the 13th Doctor continue to be great all throughout the rest of it. As I've mentioned, she had that fantastic dialogue scene with Ryan, and the scene for me that's ultimately going to stand out in my mind for a long time to come is the resolution, how she gets rid of those Death Squad Daleks by materializing her TARDIS in the middle of the air surrounded by Daleks. That shot is just incredible. It is awesome, and she just kind of goads them into coming after her, and you see all the Daleks just streaming into the TARDIS, and it's just such a jaw-dropping moment. We've never seen anything like that before in the show. And the way that Whittaker performs this scene, the way that she taunts them, it's just excellent. And it's scenes like this, and she's had scenes like this before, but it's scenes like this that make me baffled why people complain that she doesn't have the seriousness, or her performance, she can't become threatening or anything. I don't get it. When you see stuff like that, my word, is she intimidating. And then, of course, it's revealed that it was actually the other TARDIS from Gallifrey that the fam had used to get back to Earth, and not her own TARDIS. And you get this fantastic image of all the Daleks inside this TARDIS. The Doctor pops up again as a hologram, taunts them some more, and collapses the TARDIS, and there they go. They're defeated. But I do want to back up a bit before that, because I haven't really talked about the Daleks that much. And first of all, I think that the security drone Daleks they've got this really awesome look. I don't think anything will actually top the bronze Daleks, but I love the sleek black design, the lights on them and everything. They just look excellent, especially in the context of the story that they're human-made Daleks. Of course, along with the Daleks also comes a few new variations on Sega Nakanola's Dalek theme, which I think were great. They worked really well in the episode. In particular, the one that's going to stick in my head for a little while is the kind of trap remix of the Dalek theme the first time we see the security drone. I thought that was great. But these Daleks start getting unveiled as security drones all across Britain. Meanwhile, the scientist who helped develop these Daleks from the casing has created a clone of the Dalek creature from biological cells that he found inside the original casing. And of course, a Dalek clone is not good news. It starts growing its own more Dalek clones, and eventually, of course, they get teleported into the security drone casings to take over the Earth, and havoc breaks loose, and we get, honestly, one of the most terrifying Dalek massacre scenes probably in the show's history. They are just relentless, and I gotta say, the red lasers, as opposed to the usual blue, they just look really harsh, more deadly, I don't know, but it works so well, and it's just a slaughter, and it is fantastic. We haven't seen anything like that in a long time, probably since the Stolen Earth and Journey's End, and even then, I think we saw more actual exterminations here Like, it was incredible. And to solve this problem, the Doctor calls in the real Daleks to come and destroy them for, obviously, the sake of purity, because Daleks are racist like that. And I thought that was a really clever solution to the problem. We've already talked about the other resolution, how she got rid of those Daleks, which I also thought was really clever. But I thought it was great having the real Daleks coming and fighting these, genetically modified Daleks. And I mentioned before, I thought that the Civil War aspect of it was great. It didn't last very long. That is definitely something that could have done with being fleshed out a bit more had the episode been longer than it already was. But I think the actual real Daleks also worked really well. And it was great to see the Bronze Daleks back in full force. And yeah, it was just... Daleks are cool, man. And Chibnall really knows how to write them well and menacing. But the problem gets solved, and Jack gets his ADR goodbye. Jack Robertson, he's kind of let off the hook again, which I did think was a little bit weird. So I'm wondering if they're setting him up for a third appearance, which I really wouldn't mind, because like I've said, I really enjoy his character. But I'm still waiting for him to get his comeuppance, because, yeah, it doesn't feel right for him to just walk off scot-free after all he's done. So I'm hoping they are planning one more return from him to finish it off, because actually I honestly expected him to get exterminated by the Daleks when he went to go and make a deal with them. So I was really surprised that he didn't get killed then. But yeah, no, he's still at large, and I wonder if they're going to continue that story at all. I hope they do. But the real big thing was, this episode is, of course, Ryan and Graham's last appearance in the show, at least as regulars. And it's been so long since we had a companion choose to leave. Oh, yes, I was so happy because, you hear all these rumors and stuff. People were saying, oh, the Ryan should get exterminated by the Daleks or something. And no, we've had enough forced exits by now. I've had enough of the mind wipes and of the deaths and all that stuff. I just want someone to realize that it's not right for their life to continue on the TARDIS. And we finally got that again, and I am so happy. I loved it, and it was the perfect ending for Ryan and Graham's characters. I was so happy. So, because Ryan, he decides, after staying on Earth for 10 months, that it's more important that he stays on Earth for his friends, and also because there's a lot of work to do on the planet. And, of course, Graham, he would love to continue traveling with the Doctor, but he can't bring himself to if Ryan's not going to be there. So, of course, he goes with him. And I loved their whole goodbye scene, the Doctor giving them the psychic paper, the way they all kind of huddled together, and the goodbye fam. I thought that was just perfect. And the callbacks we got to the very first episode, way back in The Woman Who Fell to Earth, with Graham saying, oh, I was wrong, we do get aliens in Sheffield. And we go back to Ryan practicing riding his bike. And that was just the perfect bookend. We also get a glimpse of Grace. I thought the execution was a little bit weird, where both Ryan and Graham kind of see this ghostly image of Grace, but it just wouldn't have been right for her to not make some sort of appearance. So even if I thought the execution was a little bit sloppy, I am glad that they did it. And of course, Yaz is staying on, which is also good news, not just because it would be great to explore her character more, but also because we pretty much never have this happen in the new series, where companions join or leave at separate times. If they join together, they pretty much always leave together. Or if you have just a singular companion, you don't get another companion coming on until after the other companion leaves. It's like there's no companion overlap or anything. They always stick together. So I'm glad to see we have these different characters having these different sort of reactions to the situation and not all leaving together. I think that was great. And I guess now is as good a time as any to also discuss the announcement of a new companion for Series 13, which, as I said, I'm very happy to be getting some companion overlap. We're getting John Bishop playing a character called Dan. And I'm not really familiar with John Bishop, but I am happy that we're getting another older companion in the TARDIS, because that demographic has just been severely underrepresented in TARDIS teams throughout the show's history. And I loved Graham. I love that we had an older companion in Graham, so I'm happy that we're getting another older companion. I just hope, as much as I love Graham, I hope that Dan isn't going to be a Graham 2.0. I hope he is a distinctly different character, maybe with some similarities, but I'd love if they were obviously, pretty different from one another, and Dan just doesn't feel like a replacement for Graham. But yeah, that's pretty interesting. I'm glad as well that Jodie Whittaker is going to be getting another companion for sure, because if she does in fact leave after Series 13, and I know there have been rumors that she will, but of course there's always rumors, so I won't believe it until there's actually something official about it. But even if Series 13 is her last, I'm glad to see that she's going to be getting at least one other companion other than the ones that she started out with, because I think it's always good for Doctors to be able to have different sets of companions throughout their tenure. But yeah, other than that, I don't really have many thoughts on him, but I'm looking forward to it, because I wasn't expecting another companion in Series 13, and I would have been perfectly happy with just 13 and Yaz, but I'm also happy we're getting another companion joining. But yeah, I guess that's my overall thoughts on Revolution of the Daleks. I hope I didn't miss anything important, because I've just kind of been rambling on as the thoughts come to my head, but I had a really good time with this one. I thought it was a great continuation of all the episodes it was pulling threads from, and it was just a really fun episode to start the year on, and another fantastic outing for the Daleks from Chris Chibnall. So overall, I am very, very happy. It's not perfect. It does have a couple of issues that do hold it back, but I will say I did enjoy it a decent amount more on my second watching, and that's why I always watch the episode twice, just in case there's stuff I missed the first time, or in case I just need time for different elements to settle in. And yeah, I'm happy with how it turned out. So I think I'll be giving this episode an 8 out of 10. Very high 8, right near the top of the 8s. It's not my favorite Whittaker episode, but it's certainly in the upper half. I was debating whether or not I liked it more than Resolution. I did like Resolution more on my first watch, but when I rewatched it, I decided I think it does work better than Resolution, just a little bit. But yeah, so that's 2021 off to a start. If all goes to plan, we will be getting Series 13 later in the year, and I'm very much looking forward to that. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Please put your thoughts on Revolution of the Daleks down in the comments below. And Murgaman4, over and out, and I'll see you guys later.